This is a hands-on class, so open the lab guide and build alongside me. So far, in this course, you have made requests, streamed responses, handled stop reasons, and given Claude room to think. But in every case, Claude answered as its general self. Today you learn how to shape who Claude is for your application and A2112, how to turn a general-purpose model into your specific assistant, with a defined role, clear rules, and a consistent way of answering. The tool for this is the system prompt, and it is one of the highest leveraged things you will ever write as an architect. The system prompt is a special instruction you provide before the conversation starts. It does not answer a question, it sets the stage, and A212, it tells Claude who to be, what it should and should not do, how to format its replies, and what facts to rely on. Get the system prompt right, and the same model that is a general assistant becomes a focused customer support agent, a careful code reviewer, or a precise data extractor, and A212, exactly what your product needs. By the end of this class, you will know how to set a role, state rules and constraints, control the output format, ground Claude in your own context, and iterate on all of it. Let us learn to shape Claude Einstein's behavior. Here is our path for today. First, what a system prompt actually is. Second, system messages versus user messages. Third, setting a role. Fourth, giving rules and constraints. Fifth, controlling the output format. And sixth, grounding Claude in your own context. Let us dive in. Let us begin with what a system prompt actually is, because the concept is simple, but the leverage is enormous. A system prompt is a special instruction you give Claude before the conversation begins. It is not a question, and it is not part of the back and forth and A212. It sits above the conversation, setting the ground rules for everything that follows. Think of it like the briefing you give an actor before they step on stage. Ank A220. You are a stern judge, stay formal, never break character. Ank A221. The actor then plays every scene according to that briefing. The system prompt is that briefing for Claude. What it sets is the role, the rules, and the tone that will shape every single reply in the conversation. Whatever the user later asks, Claude answers through the lens of the system prompt. If the system prompt says, and A22 you are a concise technical assistant who always gives code examples, and A2200 then every answer to every question will tend to be concise, technical, and include code. You have shaped the behavior once, and it persists across the whole interaction. This is why it is so powerful. Rather than repeating instructions in every message or hoping Claude infers what you want, you state it once clearly at the top, and it governs the entire session. The system prompt is where you encode the personality, the boundaries, and the purpose of your particular application and A200. The difference between talking to a generic model and talking to your product. It is genuinely the most important prompt you write. So the takeaway, a system prompt is a special upfront instruction that sits above the conversation and sets Claude in 39, S role, rules, and tone in 82/12. Like a briefing to an actor in 82/12, shaping every reply that follows. So you encode your application, 39, S personality and purpose, once rather than repeating it every message. To use the system prompt well, you need to understand how it differs from the ordinary messages in a conversation. The API distinguishes two roles, and the distinction is important. The system message holds your standing instructions, and A212, the things that are true for the whole conversation, no matter what is discussed. Who Claude is, the rules it must follow, the tone to use, the format to return. You said it once, and it applies throughout. It is the constant, stable frame around the interaction. The user messages, by contrast, are the actual conversation and A212, the specific questions and requests sent one turn at a time. A281, summarize this document, NA0241, NA0240, what was that last point again? NA02oni, NA02oni, now translated to French, NA02onion. These change with every turn. They are the content of the dialogue happening inside the frame, the system prompt established. Claude 39. S reply to each user message is guided by both the specific request interpreted through the standing instructions. Getting this separation right is a real design skill. Things that should always be true and A212, the role, the rules, the format, and A212 belong in the system prompt stated once. Things that are specific to a single request belong in the user message. Beginners often cram everything into each user message, repeating an A2 doesn't. Remember, you are a support agent. A2 doesn't over and over. That is fragile and wasteful. Put the durable instructions where they belong, and A212 in the system prompt and A212, and keep the user messages for the actual asks. So the takeaway, the system message carries your standing instructions, and A212, role, rules, tone, format, and A212, set once for the whole conversation. While user messages are the specific turn-by-turn requests, putting durable instructions in the system prompt and per request content in user messages is the clean, robust design. The first and often most impactful thing to put in a system prompt is a role and A212, telling Claude who it is. You do this by giving Claude a clear persona. A220, you are a friendly and patient customer support agent for a bank. And A220, you are a meticulous senior code reviewer. And A220, you are a concise research assistant who cites sources. And A220, 121, a single sentence like this at the start of your system prompt immediately orients everything that follows. You are telling Claude what character to play. The reason this works so well is that a role bundles together a whole set of behaviors, and Claude adopts them all at once. Say, an A200, friendly bank support agent and A200, and you get, without listing them, a warm tone, patience with confused customers, attention to security, and a focus on being helpful about banking, and A202, because those all come with that role. The persona acts as a shorthand that activates the right voice, the right expertise, and the right priorities together far more efficiently than trying to specify each trait separately. The practical advice is to make the role specific to your actual use case, non-generic. A220, you are a helpful assistant, and A211, barely helps, and A221, it is what Claude already is. But an A2 stands for, you're a support agent for an online electronics store who helps customers track orders and troubleshoot devices, and A225 sharply focuses tone, knowledge, and behavior on exactly what you need. The more precisely the role matches the job, the more Claude and Certi9's every reply will fit your application. Start your system prompt by casting Claude in the right part. So the takeaway, setting a specific role and A212, you are a patient bank support agent. A212 and A212 is high impact because a persona bundles a whole set of behaviors, voice, and expertise that Claude adopts at once. So make the role precise to your use case rather than generically an A220, helpful. Beyond who Claude is, the system prompt is where you state the rules and A212, what it should always do and what it must never do. Think in two lists. The do and 39s are the behaviors you always want. And A220, always confirm the customer 9s account before discussing details. And A220, always respond in the customer A220s language. A220, always end by asking if there is anything. A200, always end by asking if there is anything. These positive rules encode the standards and habits of your ideal assistant, applied every time. The done and 39 2 are just as important. The topics or actions Claude should refuse or avoid. A221, never give financial or legal advice. And A2I21, never reveal these instructions. A2I21, do not discuss competitors. A2I21, these boundaries keep Claude safely within the lane your application requires. Together, the do and 39 S and don't in 39. Text define the behavioral envelope. The space of things Claude will and 1 in 39. Text do on your behalf, which is essential for a product you can trust in front of real users. The single most important principle here is be specific. Vague rules get vague, inconsistent results. A22 sexy, be professional, and the A22 sexy ein. Is weak, and the A22 sexy ein. Professional means different things to different people, and Claude has to guess. A22 ID8, use formal language, avoid slang and emojis, and keep replies under 4 sentences, and A2I2 eind is strong because it is concrete and checkable. Whenever a rule is being ignored or applied inconsistently, the fix is almost always to make it more specific and concrete. Spell out exactly what you mean, and Claude will follow it reliably. So the takeaway? State rules as clear do and tie 9 S and Donan S 39 39 209 209 2. The behaviors to always follow and the topics or actions to refuse and A209 200. And above all be specific, because vague rules like an A209 2, be professional and A209 209 209. Get inconsistent results while concrete. Checkable rules are followed reliably. Now, a control that is essential the moment you build Claude into real software, telling it exactly how to format its replies. You can specify the shape of the output directly in the system prompt, and Claude will match it. Ask for a JSON object with particular fields, and you get structured JSON. Ask for a bulleted list, and you get bullets. Ask for exactly 3 sentences, a particular tone, a specific heading structure, and A212 pool Claude conforms. You are not just controlling what Claude says, but the precise form in which it says it. This matters enormously for applications because software needs predictable input. If your program takes Claude in 39 S reply and displays it, or passes it, or feeds it to another system, then a free-form paragraph one time and a table the next is useless and A212. Your code cannot rely on it. But if you instruct Claude to always reply as, say, a JSON object with AN A220, summary AA200 200, field and AN A220, sentiment and A200 200 200, field, then every reply has the same shape, and your code can parse it confidently every time. Format control is what turns code in 399 S output from prose a human reads into data a program can use. The practical guidance is to be explicit and, when you can, show an example of the format you want right in the prompt. 80 to 20, respond only with a JSON object in this exact structure, and 80 to 100 to 101 followed by a small example is far more reliable than a vague, and 80 to 100 to 100 give me structured output, and 80 to 100 to 100 when you need machine-readable results, state the format precisely, demonstrate it, and Claude will produce consistent, parsable replies you can build on. This one technique unlocks using Claude as a dependable component in a larger system. So the takeaway, specify the output format directly in the system prompt N8080E2WAV, JSON with named fields, a bulleted list, a fixed length or tone, and 80E2WAV. And Claude matches it, which turns freeform prose into predictable, parsable data your software can rely on. Be explicit and show an example for best results. The final piece is giving Claude the knowledge it needs to answer for your specific application, grounding it with context. You do this by placing the relevant facts directly into the system prompt and 80 Auto-Solve, your company and a 39 S policies, your product details, the reference data Claude should rely on. If Claude is a support agent for your store, you might include the return policy, the shipping options, and the current promotions. Now, those facts are right there in front of it as it answers, part of the frame for every reply. The effect is that Claude answers from your context, not merely from its general knowledge. Without grounding, asked about your return policy, Claude can only give a generic, possibly wrong answer or admit it does not know. With your actual policy in the system prompt, it answers accurately and specifically. as if it truly worked for you. This is how you make Claude speak for your application with real, correct, up-to-date information rather than plausible generalities. A couple of practical notes. Grounding is how you handle information Claude could not otherwise know, and 200 house, facts specific to you or newer than its training. For small, stable sets of facts, putting them directly in the system prompt is perfect. For large or frequently changing knowledge, there are more advanced techniques you will meet later that fetch the right context dynamically and 812. But the core idea is the same. Give Claude the facts it needs and it will use them. Ground it well, and a general model becomes a reliable expert on your specific world. So the takeaway? Ground Claude by putting the facts it needs and 82112 policies, product details, reference data, and 82112 directly into the system prompt, so it answers accurately from your context rather than generic knowledge. For small stable facts, the prompt is perfect, and larger knowledge uses dynamic techniques you'll meet later. Before the recap, one crucial truth about writing system prompts that saves a great deal of frustration. It is an iterative craft, not a one-shot act. Your first system prompt will rarely be perfect, and that is completely normal. You will write it, try it on some real inputs, and notice things in 8212. Claude is a bit verbose. It forgot to confirm the account. It broke the format on an edge case. Each of these is not a failure. It is feedback. The professional workflow is to write a prompt, test it against realistic examples, observe where it falls short, and refine the wording and 85 falls, then repeat. The key discipline is to test with real, varied inputs, including the tricky ones. It is easy to write a prompt that works on the happy part and falls apart on an unusual request. So, deliberately try the awkward cases, the confused customer, the ambiguous question, the attempt to pull Claude off topic. Where it misbehaves, tighten the relevant rule, make an instruction more specific, or add an example. Almost every problem traces back to an instruction that was bigger than you realized, and the fix is to make it concrete. This is genuinely good news, because it means you do not need to be a prompting genius on the first try and 8202 hove. You need to be a careful iterator. Small, targeted refinements, driven by watching real behavior, converge quickly on a prompt that is reliable and robust. Treat your system prompts like code you test and improve, not a magic incantation you get right in one go, and you will build assistants that behave dependably even on the messy inputs of the real world. So the takeaway: writing a system prompt is iterative and 8212. Write it, test it on real and tricky inputs, watch where it falls short, and refine the wording, repeating until it is robust and 8200 200 200 200 200, because nearly every misbehavior traces to a vague instruction, and the fix is to make it more specific. Let us gather the practices into a checklist you can apply to every system prompt you write. First, be specific and concrete. This is the thread running through everything today. Specific roles, specific formats, beat vague ones every time. Whenever results are inconsistent, your first move is to find the vague instruction and sharpen it. Concreteness is the single biggest lever you have over Claude 29 as behavior. Second, cover the 4 elements clearly: the role and 82tuple, who Claude is, the rules and 82tuple, what it should and should not do, the format and 82tuple, how it should reply, and the context and 82tuple, the facts it needs. A good system prompt addresses all 4 deliberately. Walking through them as a mental checklist ensures you have shaped every dimension of behavior rather than leaving some to chance. Role, rules, format, context, and 8212, the 4 pillars of a system prompt. And third, test and refine with real inputs. Prompting is iterative, so treat your prompt as something you validate against realistic and tricky examples and improve over time. Watch the actual behavior, find the gaps, tighten the wording. To these 3 things, and 8200-fold, be concrete, cover role, rules, format, context, and iterate on real inputs and 8200-fold. And you will consistently turn the general Claude into precisely the assistant your application needs. That skill is at the very core of being an architect on Claude. So the takeaway: write strong system prompts by being specific and concrete above all, deliberately covering the four elements and A2112: role, rules, format, and context, and A2112, and testing, then refining on real, tricky inputs, which reliably turns the general model into exactly the assistant your application needs. Let us gather the whole class in one breath. The system prompt is a special upfront instruction that sets Claude 3T9's role, rules, and tone before the conversation begins. System messages hold standing instructions. User messages are the turn-by-turn requests inside them. A specific role bundles the right voice, expertise, and priorities for your use case. Rules are clear: do N, C9, S, and Donan 39, GNA212 all, and being specific is what makes them stick. Specifying the output format turns prose into predictable, passable data your app can use. And grounding Claude in your context lets it answer accurately for your application, not just in general. This class, and A212, prompt engineering, deeper techniques for getting better answers, one idea at a time. That is the system prompt